Hey, Pato, welcome to the show.
Hey, Anthony, thank you so much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's very exciting for me to have the creator of the networking app for Dreamforce itself here on the show. So, thank you for making time. Pato, you've had a very interesting career. Can you share a little bit with our audience what your career has looked up to this point and what drove you to establish Devs United?
Um, yeah, sure. So my career, I started when I was 18 years old, like in working in software development, um, doing mobile apps for airports, mostly when before the iPhone, just like the Pocket PC and handheld type things. Um, so I learned a lot of like C and C++ there, and then I started working on digital marketing 2007, got into web development there. And then fast forward, I moved to the US. I'm originally from Argentina. I moved to the US. Still working like as a web developer, a little bit of mobile app development, and then in 2012, I started working for a company that worked on projects with ExactTarget. So I started as a technical architect doing projects with the ExactTarget team, a lot of experience that I got there. And then in 2015, I decided that it was time for me. I had accumulated a lot of experience in different areas of of business, I guess, and in my journey. So I thought maybe I want to try it to do it on my own. So decided to leave where I was working at and start my own consulting or professional services organization focused on Salesforce Marketing Cloud. That's how I started Devs United, pretty much.
That's so cool. And clearly, you've worn many hats. So I'm kind of curious, what do you mostly enjoy doing nowadays?
Yeah, so I wore many hats. In 2019, we actually got acquired. So we are part of a bigger advertising agency here in Ohio. So that allowed me to kind of like choose a little more what I wanted to focus on versus wearing too many hats. So now mostly what I enjoy doing is consulting. Just helping clients realize their strategy for implementing Salesforce and adjust it to their goals and use cases. And then I'm a coder by trade. Really, I really love exploring that, being finding creative solutions with code. So in my free time, I develop the networking app for Salesforce was a joint effort with another trailblazer, Anthony, and then Anthony Supancic, and then I develop MC snippets, which is a playground to code in AmpScript, server-side JavaScript, and SQL without the need of a marketing cloud environment. So I've been spending most time just adding features to it and making it nicer and cooler for the community.
That's great. Let's talk a bit more about Marketing Cloud, specifically in the projects you've done. What would you say is your most or one of your most interesting projects to date?
That's a good question. Definitely done a ton of interesting. I would say the most interesting ones have to do with integrations and thinking outside of the box a little bit. One that I can remember is we did this integration for a company that sold apparel for the different um, teams on the MLB and the NHL and NBA. And one of the things we did, we integrated with a sports statistics API. We basically monitor the outcome of the games, and based on the outcome of the game, we could trigger an email in seconds after the outcome of the game to the people that were subscribed to receive news about the team to promote, kind of capitalize on those micro moments of excitement, when your team won and send them a news and say, hey, we have a sale on jerseys for this player. And we could even get it to a point where we could track not only what team won, but also like who was the most scoring player, if it was a basketball game, so we can even personalize the message even more. I would say that was I don't know if it was the most challenging, but it was a really fun project to work in.
Yeah, sounds like it. And being from Argentina, I kind of imagine that you really like football slash soccer yourself as
Yes,
well.
yes, I do. I really do love football, so yeah.
That's great. Well, this might have been one of your more interesting and fun projects, but I would like to dive into the challenges as well. What do
hmm
you see most often as the biggest challenge or challenges that marketing cloud admins face when they are onboarding teams for the first time?
I think Marketing Cloud, the I think one of the greatest strengths of Marketing Cloud is the amount of ways you can solve the amount of ways you can solve one problem, but it's also the same at the same time it's a weakness. It's like you have too many ways to solve one problem, and that could be very overwhelming for users. And you as an admin really have to the main challenge is defining what will be the set of best practices and how you're going to teach people how to use a platform. So I think I would consider that is like the main challenge for me is like creating a path for adoption and learning that is based on um, standards, like industry standards, but also like your own company way of doing things, and it's tailored towards the audience because everything is different. Um, and making sure that you onboard users that way so they adopt the platform and know how to use it.
And so you've already highlighted the specific standards that might apply within your company. Now, throughout an implementation project, the onboarding and even the support afterwards, there's usually some form of collaboration needed between the more um, marketing slash business side of just operating marketing cloud, but also with the more technical teams, whether they be technical marketers, maybe IT, maybe a dedicated marketing automation team. You clearly have a very strong technical background. What are some of the best practices, tips and tricks you can give collaborating between these two sides?
Between marketing and IT, you mean, right?
Yes.
Um, I think aligning first on what success looks like. Um, that has nothing to do with the technology, I think, is or the marketing strategies. Sitting down with the team and just mapping out what use cases we want to solve for our customers, for our users, that interact with the brand, and also what are our goals, organizational goals, and in within the department what success looks like for the IT department and for the marketing department. Because I think it's important for both teams to understand what each other's KPIs are and indicators and motivations. So then you can understand where the marketing team may be coming from or where the IT team may be coming from. You can understand their motivations and you can understand where they've been born before, right? Which is a lot of time it happens that maybe IT try to implement a previous marketing automation platform and the implementation didn't go well. So they want to really make sure that this goes really well. So they want to control certain aspects. And at the same time, marketing wants to make sure that the marketing strategy is cohesive. So I think it's important to get alignment on the organizational goals, but also the department goals and what use cases we want to solve. Once you have that and you have that connection between the teams, then um, I'm not saying there won't be challenges, but I think when there are challenges, it comes from a place of understanding where the other team is coming from, and that is a lot healthier.
Absolutely. And it's actually very recognizable to me as well. We also try to set very clear success criteria or map out the use cases when we start working with our clients. And some of our clients are technical marketers themselves, enabling the rest of the marketing team. And I think it's really important to have alignment around those things. I'm curious if you ever also see some alignment around KPIs, even if the marketers themselves are typically held up to things like engagement metrics or maybe even marketing generated revenue. sometimes technical marketers, even IT, is indirectly responsible for enabling. Is that something you have sometimes seen in projects?
Yeah, I think so. I think IT, from the IT side, from the technical side, I think um usually what is strong is technical depth, and I don't know. It's kind of like, interestingly, it's not a measurement or a KPI, but it's more like a consequence that we want to try to reuse that as a consequence. Um, so I think usually what I see, it's not really KPIs, but more behaviors or standards that we want to try to implement when it comes to technical marketers. It can be documentation. One of the things that I come across a lot when we inherit an account, we try into account an existing account, is marketing and IT don't know what are the active things that are happening in that account. You have like hundreds of automations. We don't know which ones are the active ones. You can have, because there is a difference between having automations that are running and having automations that are actually using,
Mhm.
So we, more often than not, we find like hundreds of automations that are active, but they only need 10, you know. So I don't think there are KPIs, or are more like behaviors or standards that they need to be following in terms of keeping a log of all your active journeys and automations, storing important code in code repositories, documenting the functionality. Ultimately that affects, in my mind, the bottom line, because
Mhm.
if you have to reward some functionality that can end up affecting your users, because you might be delayed to launch a new campaign because of that, which affects the bottom line. So when you think about it, you know, it might not seem like it, but everything has an impact towards your organizational goals. Um, in regards to how you implement and maintain that marketing cloud instance.
Absolutely. And I think it's really interesting where you highlight the importance first of avoiding technical debt, and then secondly, you briefly cover how automations, can sometimes still be running, but they're actually not being very useful. And all of that also impacts indirectly the user experience, because if you have tons of data storage and automations running, that might actually decrease the performance of something like even Marketing Cloud, as scalable
Yeah.
as it is, and that's going to affect marketing as well. So I think those are some really good points. Paolo, let's take a little bit longer with challenges, but this time let's talk about, what do you see as the biggest challenge in the Marketing Cloud community that nobody is talking about?
Oh, wow. Marketing cloud community, biggest challenge. I think there is a lot of talk around um, you know, getting access to demo environments for people to learn Marketing Cloud. I think learning continues to be the biggest kind of challenge, and I think it has to do with the lack of access to tools to try and error. Unless you pay for a license of Marketing Cloud, is it's really hard. And that's one of my main motivations of creating MC snippets, at least to give developers a way to not only share snippets without having to log into the account or whatnot, but also use that information, that platform to learn. I think Marketing Cloud um, needs to probably, in terms of a community, I would say a lot of the content that I see is around technical how-tos, but I would like to see a little more content around strategy, how to think about, like we were talking about, okay, how do you map out use cases? How do you map out journey experiences? Because more often than not, we go into implementations asking questions around how many data extensions do you wanna, are you gonna have, or, what are the automations that you have? And we tend to forget, why are we doing this? Starting with the why. So I think I would say those two. I would say learning, having environments to learn, but also, like, I would like to see more content around strategy, you know.
Absolutely. I think those are very good remarks. On a similar note, what do you think are some of the best topics to follow in the marketing cloud ecosystem? What's not necessarily a challenge, but is developing rapidly? What do you find interesting to follow?
Um, I love to see new people, new perspectives. You know, at the same time, I love to see new people taking on um and different perspectives on how to solve issues. You know, I like when I see documentation about, I don't know, how activating audiences from data cloud, for example, or how, you know, I think there are a few new faces on the trailblazing community, and I like to see more that are contributing around, um you know, whether that's a mini course on SQL, or you know, extending the platform using WhatsApp, you know, the kind of like the new challenge, using implementing WhatsApp and things like that. You know, I like, the things that get me excited is when I see new faces that are start to be, you know, the voice of a community and add content. You know, that really excites me.
That's really nice to hear. Specifically, do you also have some thoughts on the recent announcement for the Marketing Cloud Growth Edition? Kind of curious. You've been in the ecosystem for a while. This is somewhat of a new development. What's
Yeah.
your perspective on that?
Um, I think it's exciting to hear that Salesforce is taking steps towards truly unifying the experience in one core platform. And I think the moves towards data cloud have to do a lot with that. Um, I It does feel that it will take a long time for marketing cloud growth to become any type of even resemblance to what Salesforce Marketing Cloud engagement can do. And even account engagement, I would say maybe it's closer to account engagement because you have, you know, the flows functionality and whatnot in there, but I think it's gonna take some time. Um, and I think that just reading the amount of steps you have to take just to implement Marketing Cloud growth as a company, it makes me think that it's a very initial MVP, you know,
Mhm.
of what the final or some sort of product can be. So I'm glad that they actually tailor towards small and medium businesses because of that. Because I will suffer a lot of headaches if it wasn't that way. Um, but I wanna see more. You know, I wanna see a true roadmap of how this is going to. Because we hear from Salesforce, this is not gonna replace um marketing cloud engagement. This is gonna be like an upgrade. When I hear that it's an upgrade, I ask my question: is an upgrade from where? You know, where are you upgrading from? Am I gonna log in one day in marketing cloud engagement? I'm gonna see marketing cloud growth. You know, like it's gonna be transparent. What does that mean? So, I think it's exciting, but I think there is a long way to go, and I will be interested maybe in connections to see some sort of roadmap on where the product is headed. You know.
For sure. And with all new products, it's usually seeing how they pan out, if they find product
Yeah.
market fit. And in this case specifically, there is an interesting promise, I think, with having a better centralized platform. We all know that Marketing Cloud engagement and account engagement are still separate instances that require integration. Marketing Cloud Growth promises to avoid all of that. But I think you said something intriguing there along the way that I would like to ask an extra question about, and that was you mentioned something about Marketing Cloud Growth requiring quite a few steps to get up and running. For those in the audience who may be less familiar or who maybe haven't read the implementation guide yet, can you just high level touch a bit on that?
Yeah, I didn't read in detail, but there is like you know, there is an implementation guide that we can, you know, if we can put the link somewhere to share, but it's a whole implementation guide on the Salesforce website that for marketing cloud growth, that you have to do some setup on data cloud, you know, to enable the underlying model, you know, of the objects that are going to support this. And then you have to update some permissions. So it's a whole thing of implementing, and I believe also just implementing some of the assets that are going to be used to develop your landing pages and email are also required. So I think it's a lot of like kind of like manual steps. It's not like, oh, I install the package or something and all these settings are done. It's like a lot of manual steps that are required still, you know.
Absolutely. And I think that was a really interesting point of view, Marketing Cloud growth. Thank you for sharing that. We are about to wrap up our conversation, but I'd like to ask one more question, and
Okay.
it has to do with all those new trailblazer faces that you like to see arriving into the ecosystem. So say there's people who are looking to get into the ecosystem or who have just joined. What advice would you give to these marketers, these fresh trailblazers?
Um, I would say really find support on the community. Going into a Trailblazer community, there is a lot of great people that have content out there. Like, just like yourself are always sharing really great content on LinkedIn and your guys's website. Tapping into a Trailblazer community also. If you are really interested in connecting with other Trailblazers, the official Salesforce events are not the only events that you can attend, and I know that could be too much of an investment sometimes for certain people. So look for, even in the Salesforce events website, you can see the dreaming events that are happening in your area, and also sign up for like the community groups and that may be in your area, because that's the best way to connect with other people and that can get you guidance on how to get started. And the other thing is, if you do happen to have a marketing cloud account, for example, is don't wait until you have an actual project to get your hands on. I mean, sometimes it's better to just made up your own like set of use cases or projects and get your own practice, going. I see a lot of people that they have a marketing cloud instance, say, oh, I want to learn, I don't know how to, and then they take that course and I don't have experience. So it's like, you don't need a client to have experience. You can like just made up your own set of use cases and start playing with the platform, and making mistakes sometimes is the best way to learn, I think.
I totally agree. I think getting your hands dirty is something you really have to do, especially with
Yeah.
something as complex as marketing automation,
Yeah.
because it's sometimes mind-boggling the complexity that goes behind it. I think it's one of those most easily underestimated things, and it's very hard for people in marketing operations, marketing automation to often even explain it to other people just how complex the stuff is that they're doing.
Yeah.
Pato, this has been super interesting. Can't wait to meet you again, probably
Yeah.
very soon at some Salesforce events.
Yes.
Thank you for being part of the show.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. See you soon.
See you. Hey, it's Anthony again. Thank you for watching the show. If you liked what you hear today, make sure to subscribe to any of our channels, such as YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Music. Thank you and have a great day.